So we'd like to welcome everybody to the February 27th annual Board of Trustees meeting. Board members Wade?
Present.
White? Present. Rosca?
Yes.
Woods?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to public comment. If there's anyone wishing to speak, now would be time to come up to the podium, and seeing none, I guess we'll continue on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
Okay. Then does anybody have any questions regarding the approval of claims? Okay, how about minutes? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda. This electric utility action items. I need a motion on a resolution approving a purchase for a fiberglass service body for the electric department. Do you want to say anything about it, or did you want to discuss?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
So yeah, this would be the service body we talked about to go on the truck to replace the big bucket truck. We did go out for bids. Yeah, better to bids. Hawkeye truck did bid. Their bid did come in a little bit late. It's an aluminum body. We weren't really wanting to aluminum body due to they don't flex as easy. The doors don't operate as easy through the industry. And we've had great experience with fiberglass. That's why we bid it out. We've had +year-old fiberglass bodies that we just really haven't had to touch, knock on wood. Those trucks, this kind of also relates to it. The trucks, both have been built. We're just waiting for them. I think the one's waiting for about 30 some days out. There's a chip that's in line to get. I know that's been said a lot across the country about chips, trucks, but this one is. But Ford and Dodge have been built. We predict we'll see those. Kind of give you an idea. The Ford, we're going to be in that $51,000 range for the Ford, and the Dodge is going to be with taxes right around the $53,000 range for those trucks. So I put that out there so you know what's coming forward as part of future, bid process. It really wasn't a bid process. We had to order them, go out to get them, but bringing those claims to you here in the near future, hopefully. So if any other questions on it?
So does our truck not come with just normal bed?
We get them good normal bed, and I'd recommend everybody bid that $500 to keep the bed. We talked about keeping it, try to resell it later on down the road, but I don't know where we would store it and keep it without it getting damaged in the process type of thing. I will tell you, I guess I could include unit 28, which is the bigger bucket truck that we want to get rid of. We estimate that working with the online, they're based out active, but they're nationwide. It's about $9,000 to $12,000 per tractor. So on that, what they think, they said it took $15,000 they could get out of that. And our buyer premium or our seller premium is 6% that we'd also have to take off of that to go through that. But I kind of do an auction. They go through an auction. Yep. And they get roughly about 2,000 bidders, and they specialize. They got bigger trucks. It's kind of their niche. What they do.
Where's that at?
They got an office out of Ankeny.
Ankeny.
Yep.
Anything else? You did, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, we didn't. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, Jackie. Board member Solgrade?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Rosca?
Yes.
Woods?
Yes.
Hey, moving on to electric utility informational items. Have any others?
I don't know if you want to do yours first. You want me to do a list?
If we got my mic on, let's get him on so you can be on. Thank you. Jason, is Mike Maloney from D.A. Davidson on?
Yep, I'm here. I'm here as Chris.
Excellent. So for the trustees benefit online is Mike Maloney. He is our financial consultant. We recently got our electric utility S&P updated. And, give us an A- that was consistent with prior year. No upgrade, stable outlook. I think you all got the report sent to you. If you have a few comments you'd like to communicate, and we'll take any questions the board may have after that.
Yeah, I'll be brief, Chris. I think that was a really good summary. My short feedback would be this is routine and consistent with what we've seen for other entities in terms of regular surveillance from the rating agencies. The rating was affirmed, and I think makes sense based on the size of the utility. And I think while my memo goes into detail, I think realistically, the electric utility methodology specific to both scale and some of the headwinds that the rating agencies are considering from the public power perspective nationally have more of effect than anything that the local board here is doing in regards to operations. So we always try to talk about what the maximum outcome on rating performance would be. Realistically, if there was a magic bullet to increase revenues and reserves without raising rates for the system, maybe you could be one notch higher. What that would mean would you'd have potentially a slightly lower borrowing cost, 5 to 10 basis points. So 1/20th to 1/10% better rates next time you borrowed. We don't necessarily have any real borrowing plans for the electric side in the near future here. And two, we're probably not going to thread the needle of increased revenues without increasing rates with anything other than the continued steady growth of the community. So while I appreciate we can always want to be better on the rating, I think the board is doing the things they should be doing, and that's noted in the rating report in my memo. I think most importantly, thinking about diversifying the energy mix going forward to the extent you can, which you've done and worked on in the last year. And two, proactively looking at and setting rates and charges to sufficiently provide good debt coverage and good reserves, which you also addressed within the last year. So keep doing what you're doing from the peanut gallery. That's me here, but I'm happy to answer any questions and want to keep it short and sweet for you guys on a Monday night.
I have two questions, and it's either for Mike or Chris probably. In the actual S&P review, a couple things caught my attention. One is that Amin currently has no credible plans to transition away from coal-fired resources. I thought they had a target, 2050 target of in that direction. Yeah, and this is something that they kind of push back a little on. In my opinion, I think Ming's got a plan, and they've got have made progress to that. The stuff that S&P was looking for that they didn't see is there's no concrete date on the coal plant's retirement, and because we're not pursuing an ownership methodology, we're not buying wind farms, we're doing PPAs. The future promise that we will only consider these green is not sufficient enough to be a concrete plan, because the mean board could change their mind, and there's nothing that's dedicated to it. So while I myself do think that the 2050 goal is doable, and having been there on the mean board side as they're discussing that, I think their methodology and plan to diversify and pursue PPAs that fall into this green energy or carbon free or carbon neutral philosophy, I think that there is every intent of the board to do that. There's no contractual requirements, so S&P is rating it negative. So as much as I would disagree in spirit, certainly I can't point to any concrete document that's requiring them to do so, but feel like they, there is a methodology, so. I'm glad to hear you push back on that, and I understand how this works, that you can push back, but they don't always have to do what you ask them to, so I understand that. The other question I had is that the rates, electric rates, were 119% of the state average. That surprised me that we were that high. And again, I think this is kind of selective and conglomerate data that ignores stuff like franchise fee and, a number of other fees like that American adds in. Yeah, the fees like that. So, if you pick data aggregation, sources and you pick just rate only in particular rates, yes, it probably doesn't look favorable. But how I've always consider it and will continue to consider it, because we're immune and because our franchise fee is implicit, our rate is inclusive of everything. When you look at the check that the customer has to, the amount of the check that the customer has to write for using a particular amount of electricity, and you compare that to the check that they write to another provider, another large conglomerate local provider, they're remarkably similar. And I think that's ultimately what's important. And that makes sense. And I agree. My only suggestion is I'm concerned about this being picked up by somebody who has ill intentions towards IMU. So I think we just need to be prepared to respond to that. Yeah. And I think to that end, Alicia's working on some data, and I hope by Friday maybe I'll share something with you looking for your feedback. But kind of just looking at everything, all of our fees, all of the city fees, kind of just as a cost to live in Indianola compared to everyone else. And I hope that's kind of will summarize everything nicely and show where we actually stand rather than data sharing.
Well, we've always known that's been out there and it's been that way. It makes me wonder if we shouldn't work with, Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities. From a consumer perspective, I would think that we would want to report rates and information similarly, so a consumer can take a look at that and really understand and not have to dig into the weeds and understand what's there. To me, that it's us at a disadvantage and puts us in a bad light.
It does. It's unfortunate, but from the data aggregation perspective, not everyone has a franchise fee, and so not everyone that does have a franchise fee is 5%. So rather than them having to check with every municipality to back out rates, or if they're municipal, they kind of just make things a global, and that's how it is. So comparability is difficult, and I understand maybe why they're picking what they do. It unfortunately, because of our scenario, makes us look less favorable. But from
You say there's not a lot we can do, really.
there's not. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, and Adam, your 2 points were the 2 items that Chris had the most dialogue back and forth with the rating analysts on, not surprisingly. And I think the biggest challenge, Chris kind of hit on his first comment here on the rate comparison, is it's not really even S&P that's actually doing this. They're taking that final number, but it's third parties downstream from them that are pulling this information. So I do think staff justifying this and having that information prepared internally or working with IMU is a good way to buffer that, but it kind of is what it is on the report. Those of you who know me well know I really hate giving to that level, but that's the case. And I think the staff pushed as strongly as they could on that issue.
Thanks, Mike.
Anything else from anyone on that?
Yeah.
Mike, you got anything else for electric?
I'll give you an update. So the apprenticeship position, we do have applicants in. We'll do interviews on Friday. We'll see how that goes and move forward with that. Been working on the board machines that we ordered. They're actually the first one will be in here in March. the one we need to use on the downtown square, which would be great to get that in. We're starting training on that here in about a week or so, and then a couple weeks later, we'll send the other half up. Got that all lined up moving forward. Just so you know, the other drill is in May. We'll see the bigger drill in May. And then you've probably noticed we definitely continue on the claims list. We continue to buy lots of material right now for mainly the downtown project. The good news is we've been fortunate that a lot of the material that we need up front has still been available when being able to get it. So move forward with that. March 13th, I believe, is the start date on that. Where they'll start on the South Alley, and then we'll it's part of a sewer connection we got to do, and then they'll move west over towards the old office on Buxton, tap into the water, and then move their way east. So we'll probably fall in behind them. We'll probably start installing duct banks sometime in mid-April. That's kind of what we're anticipating right now. Whether then I know last time we talked a little bit about the roof downtown at the downtown plant. We had that one leak. We did have somebody come in. They did fix the drain after the rain we got last night. It's slowed down significantly, but we got a small little leak and they were back today. I haven't heard where they're at on that, but he did evaluate the roof and he thought the roof was in fairly good shape and has several years of life left to it right now.
Like the work we got going on the square this next season, how is that going to interrupt traffic and so forth and closings? Is it going to be similar to what we had the last couple of years, or is it going to?
Yep. So like Buxton will be closed through traffic for a little while, and then I know their intention. So be by the canoe shop, and so that'll be closed for a little bit. But they want to get that back open, get traffic flowing back through there. But then, the alley will be tore up at the same time, and then the parking lot south side that'll be closed for construction area, the material and
Behind the buildings?
Yeah. And I'm not sure right. There's still we'll be heading next yet. I do know that's where we're at least starting.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, moving on to water utility informational items.
Not a lot's changed for us. We finished all of our interior tank repairs. We have one tank outside that hopefully we'll get to this week. We've been updating water meters that have a 20-year life on them. So we've been going through and getting those swapped out. Well, 11 that we had redone last June failed on us. That's short in it. Luckily, it's under warranty. Hopefully, they'll get to us sooner than later, but it helped out that we got 12 back, so we still have another big well run if we need to. So hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll get that pulled, and it won't be a big fix, but we won't know until it gets pulled. And then, like Mike said, we'll be starting up on the streetscape. So all the unknowns that will come with that, we'll take them as we get them.
Questions, anybody? Thank you, Justin. Let's see, Chris, are you going to cover communications?
Yeah, Kurt still on vacation, should be back. Forgetting if he's going to be back the first or first is his last day of vacation. So he'll be back towards the end of the week. Installations are still progressing. I think we've had a relatively minor winter, couple of cold snaps, but nothing to prevent the level of construction like we had last year. Last year we had a sizable amount of more drops in. They've been able to put a lot of those in. So when we do come around to some nicer weather, we really are sitting in much more minimal in the way of temp drops. So I think that'll make for an easier progression from the winter installations into the a little harder spring installations.
Let's see, now we'll have combined electric, water, and communication action items. And first, we will for the fiscal year 24 budget, we will open the public hearing regarding the proposed fiscal year 24 budget. Motion?
So moved.
I don't have to
invite anybody to speak.
Okay. And seeing none, I will close it now. Okay, so now we will have a motion for resolution approving the fiscal year 24 budget. Okay,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Becky?
Member Voight,
Yes.
Eldred,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Rosga.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on now to a resolution approving a services proposal from Crystal Clear Communications was taken from our last meeting. I have a motion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Chris?
Yeah, I'll kind of just as a little feedback from our discussion. We had a local vendor that was suggested and I did contact with them. Finish work, but the actual operation wasn't part of their wheelhouse. And the gentleman I spoke with was going to give me some information or try to come up with a contact person. Preference would be to have that vendor handle content generation and the publication, because there's a lot of back and forth on making that work together. I didn't hear, he said I'd have some information on last Friday, and I didn't hear anything on Friday. I called him up a message this afternoon, haven't heard anything back. So as we're sitting there, you're still, pending that number. I don't know what his proposal will be, and if he's able to get a content creator, or we'll have to handle that from an outside third party yet. So with that, the proposal is for 12 months and $2,600 a month. The recommendation will be to stick with that. Certainly if there's any options in between, if we wanted to do this for 6 months, I'd kind of entertain any feedback from the trustees if there's still a desire to pursue this local vendor. It doesn't sound like we'll probably have that information in the short term, but I can still work with them and try to see what that would cost if we wanted to consider this somewhere in between. With any feedback, I'd like to hear consideration.
So can we do that if we approve the contract? Can we get out of the contract?
Put a caveat, but it's.
Oh,
If
okay.
we have special.
Okay,
In different terms and
that understanding, then I'm fine with it.
And I would say, I think our concern is really just, and there's been some errors in spelling and different things. And those are things that just kind of don't make us look real good. And so I guess my hope would be that they would step up and,
Oh.
yeah. It's up to them.
Yeah, that-
I wasn't on the last one she presented to us, and that was a while ago, but
yeah, and I certainly have, with some of those little stuff, I've provided that feedback in the past, and I think most recently, when I was going on vacation, some stuff slipped through there that otherwise probably shouldn't have, and I can continue to have that conversation. And the last time, I think things got better for at least a few months before they got worse again. So I'll have that conversation and pass along any other concerns. Have to go with that.
But what do we need to do then?
So what are you proposing for a term, 6 months or?
Oh, do you think she would go month to month until? Because that's how you've been working with her, isn't it? Month to month?
Yeah, the way we'd started, initially when this was kind of in the conceptual phase, we were on a month to month. And when it became a regular feature, and I think we had a lot of positive feedback out of those flyers. When it became a little more permanent, she offered us a little better rates to go for a year than the month stuff. I can certainly have a month discussion with her or, approach any of those compromises that you guys think are appropriate.
Which everybody's preference.
6 months.
Okay, till
6 month
December,
deal, I would.
through
Yeah.
December 31st,
Through June, I think.
through June.
Yeah, her term was January 1st, 23 to December 31st, 23.
Oh,
Was in her contract or the proposal.
June 30. 31.
And I obviously wasn't here for the discussion you guys had last meeting. Sounds like there's some discussion related to this then. I'd be fine, as Mike said, for going 6 months. And then in the meantime, asking Chris and his team to consider other options. And there may not be other good options, but
It doesn't have to just be the local one that you were currently looking at. I mean, you've got a Des Moines just north. I'm sure there's gotta be someone that we can get some additional pricing for and just for consideration.
Yeah, and I have previously, before we kind of entered in this, approached some other folks and I did see, much like our local person that tends to do the publication and finish work. There was, or the other considerations there were, we'll take your content and then, get it in print format ready. So similar to kind of the local one, I didn't have somebody that was willing to do both the content and the finish work. So
so have you advertised for it? I mean, put an ad somewhere for it?
we have not done RFPs. This has kind of been, word of mouth and my personal, just kind of looking at some regional providers. Haven't gone outside of the local region for any work or feedback or any of that work preparation stuff.
have you asked any other municipal utilities to see if they use somebody different that they like?
The other ones that used this had purchased some more canned, Waverly is the one. They have kind of some canned articles that end up being boilerplate stuff that they include in like theirs. And certainly that's an option, but I think it does lose a little bit of the, while we don't necessarily generate the content, we're able to get back on, April 1st is coming up, so we'd like to do an article on, impact and what it means to our customers and those type of, so we can go to a little more boilerplate type flyer, but
And I don't think I'm looking for that.
yeah,
That really was the personalization aspect, the community aspect of it, so.
and somebody like a CFU is the other utility that does it, and they have a number of staff people that are internal.
I would say keep looking. And
See what happens in the next 6 months, see if they're.
That's why I say I think 6 months is fair and, that gives them an opportunity and us an opportunity to reassess and.
then you'll have to go back and correct this then, I'm assuming, or adjust it.
Yeah, I'll look to Jackie, but like conceptually, they pass it with the caveat of changing or, subject to a June end date.
Amend your motion.
Yeah. I just did.
Okay, all those, let's see, I don't need
No, I do.
oh, you do? Okay,
Board member Voights,
Yes.
Belgrade,
Yes.
White,
yes,
Rodka.
Yes.
okay. The combined electric, water and communications informational items.
Uh,
Do we have any?
Don't have anything significant to do. Let you guys know here that we got some information that I'm trying to assemble. So if you have time this weekend, would like to get some feedback on how best to present this. I'm also gonna run this by, because there's some city numbers in there, but just start that communication discussion. I think every once in a while, the concept of rates and this, 119%, and what that means does kind of get out there and start to spiral out on social media. And I'd like to kind of just, I think Alicia's structured something that's a good informational tool. And if you guys have any feedback on what you'd like to see added, subtracted, but kind of, it is, the concept behind it is a little bit of, contrary to what you might hear on social media, here are what you pay to live in Indianola, and here's what you'd pay in different towns. And, by and large, we're kind of in the middle. So there's, some places that are, you'd save $2 or $3 a month with their services. There's some that are $3 to $10 more expensive. And I think it's kind of might be eye-opening to some people that like to, consider rumors or any of those other items. So got that coming out. I'd like your feedback on that. And there are a couple of in May. I've been invited as one of the panelists to consider green energy and transmission needs. So if anybody is really bored from work and wants to learn about green energy, and I'll be there to kind of present the municipal considerations. There's going to be some folks from Mid-Am and Alliant there as well. It'll be the name of the hotel escapes me, but it's a hotel off of.
Do it.
Yep. So I'm excited to be able to kind of advocate for municipal energy in that respect, and that's coming up at the beginning of May.
And when's the Sustainability Committee's fair? April 1st. April 1st. And what if anything are we doing for that then?
Sandhills is working with us for this year. We're gonna got some solar information and conceptualize around our solar project. So Sandhills is they're kind of got some portfolio of information on some panels, some stuff for people to look at and touch, and we'll probably do some of the site plans and site surveys. What our construct will look like and what it'll mean for the community. And of course, I plan on being there to help them out with that.
From the city perspective, just looking at from recycling and some of that type stuff, I don't know if that's the kind of thing that we would, even want to have there as well. I think that all kind of falls under that umbrella, my opinion. So
yeah, and certainly, I'll talk with Ben about this. Our anticipation is to participate in that from the solar perspectives, and so primarily electric and primarily solar. But with all of that, I think there's certainly some water aspects. I think we do have a little bit of a shining star of the solar project. So for this year's fair, my hope is to focus our energies on that, and to the extent that the city wants to work with or add to that, we'll do it that way.
Anything else? Anybody else have anything? Well, I will take the motion.
Second.
Thank you, everyone.